Good evening, race fans. This is Ken Rodriguez. Welcome to live NAGP Thursday night GT1 racing. At the moment, I'm alone broadcasting, so I do not have a partner to introduce to you folks tonight, and hopefully Tom Schubeck, who is scheduled to be in here with us, is experiencing some technical difficulties, but we're hoping that he will be in with us here shortly. But we're here at Zandvoort, at the Zandvoort track. And these guys here tonight, GT1 Racing, we have a wet track, 102 degrees. Right now, the conditions are dry. However, the skies are cloudy, and the rain is probably going to start coming down any moment now, knowing this track and how we've raced here before. So, no surprise there. Out on track with David Poole, who was showing some great bursts of speed during practice, trying to get out while the track is still dry, get down a couple of hot laps, set a fast pace. Another fast driver of the night, Rich Roman, who finished practice session right before we went live in third place. Rich has been also getting faster as the season has gone on with that Corvette C6R, Mad Croc Racing. Marty Uren driving the Ferrari F40 Skidmark Racing, one half of Skidmark Racing, along with Mike Greatrix. So we're going to talk a little bit about the track tonight. Zandvoort, located in Zandvoort, Netherlands. It is a tire shredding circuit with blind sweeping corners and plenty of elevation changes. 13 turns, and this track has just about everything that you can imagine. Race tonight is scheduled to go for 58 laps, and of course the chance of rain is average. 10% cut rule, as always here at NAGP League, is in effect for tonight, so these drivers have to be very careful and watch how close they come to those corners. 4 tires past the curb on the inside is considered a cut. And we do have some penalties. We do have Andres Cole, who has to serve a no qual tonight for at-fault contacts, and a couple of warnings that went out from last week. Warning went out to Andres Prado for blocking under braking for the Adelaide hairpin. Uren makes contact with Prado from behind, forcing him into a spin. Prado changes line from outside to inside, under braking and well past the committed braking point of Uren prior to the contact, which is unavoidable. So Andres Prado receives a warning for that. But aside from that, light week for penalties, which is a good thing. Moving over to the standings right now for GT1. Currently, John Ludden in first place with 102 points. Aaron Parsons right now running second with 96. Brad Maris moves his way up to third with 89. Chris Moses up into fourth with 85. And Rich Roman, who will round out your top 5 with 69. In the team standings, Anger Racing, 148 points after last week's very, very nice finish for Brad Maris, which pushed the team up in points. T-Broke Dam Bam GT1 McLaren F1s are sitting in second with 119 points. Precision Motor Racing, Chris Moses and the boss, Al Merriman, sitting in third with 113. Broken Wheel Racing, which is John Ludden and his teammate, 102 points. H&C Racing with 79. That's your top 5 for the points this. Alex White, your early pole sitter, with a 131.9 as he comes across the line, and again he will set a new fast lap of a 131.841. So Alex White setting the blistering pace right now over John Ludden, who is sitting in second with a 132.206. John Ludden taking to the field now to try and answer Alex's 131. Brian Mongrain We saw Brian Mongrain making a great show here last week at Magny-Cours. Unfortunately, he ran out of fuel at the end. I believe it was with the lap to go, had to make a pit stop. And that cost him the second spot, second place for last week's race. Now on board with David Poole, currently sitting fourth, driving the Aston Martin DBR9, not the DBRS. Andres Prado, one half of Anger Racing. About 800ths of a second off of the pole pace right now. Andres Prado will cross the line 1.3 seconds over pole pace. On board with P7 Marty Uren on an out lap.
Hey Ken, I'm here. I'm still waiting for qualifying 2 to see if we can make this happen. I'm kind of watching the broadcast, so I'm a little behind on things, but I can maybe try and help out. So it should be a interesting race, a tricky track for these big power cars.
It is. I remember driving here with the GT2 cars, and this track was a lot to handle then. So I can just imagine these high power 600 horsepower GT1 cars are probably gonna have their hands just as full, if not more so.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the GT2 cars are even a handful around this little squirrely little track, but these big power GT1 cars are definitely gonna be testing their pilots. You know, especially like Brad, the Anger Racing, man, with that Viper. This is definitely gonna be a tough track for them. But David Canavan's got a good car for here in that Lambo, so I'm looking to see him probably put down some blistering pace laps too. And Ludden's car should be awesome here also.
I would imagine that Pagani Zonda would be very nimble around this track. That the side-to-side weight balance of that car is something to behold. I actually test drove that car, not on this track, but on Magny-Cours last week before the race, just to get a feel of what it felt like. And I tell you, I love the way it went through the chicane. So very nimble. Another car that I like for this track, even though the tires will probably be getting eaten up, the Ferrari F40. It's light enough.
Yeah, I'm watching the live timing here, and you know, another surprise for me is David Poole's really got that DBR9 hauling the mail. I mean, I wouldn't expect that car to be. I would think that car would be a little bit of a handful at a track this tight, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what,
so that's definitely respectful.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you what, David Poole, as we were closing out the practice session, was sitting in second for quite some time. So he's finding speed out of that Aston Martin, which is a good thing. Adds to the competition up front, and just looks like he's trying to sew together a really good second half of the season.
Yeah. And also Brian Mongrain in that Ford GT1, looking real racy. He was really racy last weekend too, or last Thursday. So it's nice to see him back up there, showing in those top three positions in qualifying.
Yep, absolutely. And I was mentioning that a little bit earlier when we were talking about the race at Magny, that he had an unfortunate mishap. He misjudged his fuel and nearly ran out, and I think he had to pit on the last lap, which was a real heartbreaker. He was running second to John Ludden. Tremendous pace, and that's a good to see.
Yeah, that was a heartbreaker. I mean, but it happens, and you're running that hard, especially in the cars like that Ford, and some of the the thirsty cars. When the competition's that close and you're running that hard, I mean, it could have been he made one mistake, one little off, and to compensate for that, used his whole, screwed his or his fuel window,
Yep, and we did catch that on the broadcast last week when they were coming out of the final chicane. He got a little overzealous there and ended up tagging the outside wall, which gave Ludden just enough room that he needed to get by and take over the lead for good. So yeah, certainly a heartbreaker. So we're on board now.
Oh, but
Sorry,
I mean, he led what, 20 laps of that race. He led like 20 laps of that race from the start, man. That was an awesome race.
That it was. He showed awesome pace, and it's amazing, right? Because he started the season off a little slow, it looked like, but all of a sudden he seems to be getting back to form. It's the Brian Mongrain that I remember from several seasons back, constantly up at the front and pushing a challenge for the lead. So good to see.
Yeah, it is.
So your leader, your current pole sitter, we have about 12 minutes of qualifying left, by the way, and Alex White setting the blistering pace here. Not surprisingly, 131.6. He's the only person to have reached the 131s, and Brian Mongrain is right there knocking on the doors. Brian's going to have to put together a really good and perfect lap to break into the 131s at this point.
Yeah, those two front runner cars they're going to be interesting, be interesting to see how much time these guys actually put into their setup work, because both those cars are going to be a little bit hard on those rear tires, and this track is known for tearing up some tires, so it might get interesting for those guys, those front runners in qualifying.
Absolutely, and come race time, should we see dry weather with high temperatures, then I am going to imagine that saline is going to be a handful, maybe about 15, 16, or even 17 laps into the race at that point. These guys pushing hard.
Yeah, when I drive that car, it's a handful from lap 1 till usually I wreck it. That car is a handful, period.
Yeah, it's a great car to drive. I love it. I absolutely love the car. But I just know that thing is just really wicked on the rear tires. But Alex White, still your pole sitter, followed by Brian Mongrain, driving the big, heavy Ford GT. John Ludden in third. John Ludden trying to get some speed around this track.
Yeah, his car should be good here. It should be interesting. We got Andres Prietos up to 6th, and that's 132.5 in that big heavy Viper. That's respectable. I mean, that is really good. And same with Moses with his 550. Both those cars are going to be a little bit of a handful here, I would think.
Yeah, I would think too. I mean, and I'm surprised. I thought I would have seen Andres. The fact that he's not carrying any success ballast right now, thought I would have seen him perhaps maybe another position or two up the chain. But 6, very respectable. Chris Moses, like you said, and Chris Moses carrying about around 44 pounds of ballast. Rich Roman was 66 in ninth. So Brad Maris, however, the weight on his car is definitely showing here. He's sitting in 16th, carrying I believe it's 40 kilos, 88 pounds of ballast. So yeah, that's a bit rough right now for the Viper.
Yeah, that car, that car's going to be tough for those guys here. I mean, it's just going to be bring home what you can kind of race, I would think, for them, because that car is definitely not suited for this track. But you know, they'll drive the wheels off it like they always do.
Yeah, that they will. That they will. There's no doubt. So I mean, I'm looking for an interesting race here tonight. Like you said, the inaugural race for GT1 here at NAGP, running at Zandvoort. So, I mean, I can't even fathom what to expect.
Well, hopefully we have a dry race. I think it's a little above average for rain here. I'm not sure. Let me check real quick. You know, it is average. Max distance is going to be 58. There's 10% cut rule. No, it's going to be an interesting race. I mean, this, you know, I like this track, but it's just with these big power cars, it's really going to be a test on guys' patience, you know.
It is, not to mention some of the areas are very narrow, so overtaking can become a challenge, especially through some of the blind corners on this track. You don't know what lies ahead, so you got to have your wits about you, and your reflexes got to be on point. And just try and drive a clean race. I think that those that drive a clean race don't get over anxious here tonight, but show some patience. With 90 minutes worth of racing, I believe you will pull out a good show here.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I don't know how many people have done any kind of long distance testing, you know, like to get an idea, like run a full fuel stint to see how their cars are and stuff. But it should be interesting to see how these cars fade at this little track, because it's going to be rough on them.
It certainly is. And boy, you know, just as you were talking, we started to witness the rain start to come down with about 7 minutes of qualifying left. So very interesting. Not that I think it's going to make too much of a difference here for the remainder of the qualifying session, because the fast laps have already been put down. But if it does go ahead and get wet, then I think that Alex's pole time will be pretty safe.
Well, let's be honest. I would think that time is pretty safe. I mean, geez, he's got what? Half a second on a little, yeah, about a half a second on Mongrain.
Yep.
I think he's pretty safe with.
Yeah, I would say so too. No doubt that Mongrain and even Ludden would probably want one more crack at it, but with rain coming down, I don't know if that's even going to be possible.
Yeah, rain would be an interesting factor here, definitely. You know, I think it would definitely help out the front engine cars a little bit.
That it would.
You know, there may be some boys out there praying for the wet stuff to kind of even the field out.
Well, I know that Mark O'Connie is one of those guys, because he thrives in the wet, really good at driving in the rain. But I wonder just how many of these boys have actually had some practice time in the wet. Hopefully some of them actually got around to practicing in wet conditions.
Yeah, I would think most of these guys have, that's my usual, plan about going about things is trying to, start out with a dry, get a setup that I like, that feels stable, then take it into the wet, because the wet's just gonna, it's just gonna enhance any kind of defect in your setup. If your car is loose, it's going to be crazy loose in the wet. If it's a pig, it's going to be just a dump truck in the wet. So I like to use wet track conditions to do some fine tuning to my setup, and it actually helps me.
I never looked at it that way, and that's probably a practice I will pursue going forward. Typically, I'd be working on my dry setup so much and pay very little attention to a wet setup, and that's probably why I suck in the wet. But yeah, not bad. Take a really good dry setup and work on it for
that's
the wet.
Understandable. That's understandable. Well, that's the thing. The mentality behind it is that a real good wet setup is going to be good in the dry. A good dry setup is not necessarily going to be good in the wet. So at tracks where the average is at least average or higher, sometimes it's better to err on the side of caution and set your car up more for a neutral weather condition, so it's good dry or wet.
Yeah, I have to agree. That makes perfectly good sense, and it's a good race strategy to have. Always being prepared for the unknown. We're starting to see some of these wet rooster tails kick up, so we know that the track is getting slower at this point. Let's take a look at seeing what our conditions are right now. So yep, the track at 103 degrees Fahrenheit did go damp, and 90 degree ambient, so it's a bit hot, bit warm, and no surprise why the rain came in those temperatures around the track.
Yeah, it's pretty much a done deal. I just see, got Jonathan Cuppett in that. He's got that C5, correct? Up in 11th. That's a good run for him. So he got in a couple good laps before this wet stuff came.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of boys are struggling here.
Yep. Kreshnik Khalili, he's currently sitting in P13, on board with him, going around the track. Now they're driving the Pirelli shod Saline. So the Pirellis, my understanding is that Pirellis are supposed to be really, really good in the wet. So there may be a slight advantage for the second Saline team should it go wet for the race conditions.
Yeah, definitely the Pirellis are better, but then it comes back down to, have you practiced in the wet? Do you know what your car is going to do in the wet? The guys that have done, you're gonna see it. That's just facts. So it'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely, as we're winding down the qualifying session here. A little over a minute left to go for qualifying, and not much has changed at all. We still have Alex White, Brian Mongrain, John Ludden, and then Marty Urin. That's your top four. David Poole decided to go back out, see what he can do out here in the wet. Don't think his time.
I think most of the boys are out there just right now, just trying to get a little.
Yep. Get some of that
feel for
the wet. That's right, absolutely.
I'm really that's respectable. David Poole's got that off DBR9 up in fifth. I would not have expected that car to be doing that good around this joint. So he's definitely one of the boys that's done his homework.
Oh yeah, I love David Poole
He
for
looks
his.
good going into the pits too. I'm a
Yeah,
little behind.
yeah, absolutely. But love his setups. He did when my first season here. He did my spa setup for the Mosler that I was driving that season, and boy, I got to tell you that setup was spot on. Much better than anything I could have ever came up with at the time. Andres Prado almost taking it
Right,
sideways.
yeah, but you guys are starting to get that Viper. You guys were looking good. I was watching the broadcast. You guys are getting that Viper going there. Team broadcast racing.
Yeah, actually, the Viper is doing really well. We're happy with it. I'm probably happier than Jack is with it, but it's working. It's working, and learning a lot with it in terms of setups, what it does, what they do, what they don't do. As Chris Moses decides to test the resiliency of the barrier coming into pit road. Looks like we are done with qualifying one.
All right, let's cross my fingers and see if I can get in here.
Okay, fingers are crossed. So we crossed over into qualifying two, and this is where the drivers will be in their driver meeting right now in our chat room, getting their instructions from Mr. Chris Moses.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm screwed. That sucks.
So it still won't come up for you, huh, Tom?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
We're gonna have to take a
I
closer
think
look.
I got a bad track file or something.
It's just weird. And this is happening on your desktop as well.
Yeah, that's I moved over to the desktop to see if I could get it to work.
We are sorry to hear that. I mean, you are more than welcome to just stay on and do the commentary. Fantastic commentary that you're doing. So don't go anywhere.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna get out of here for a second. I'll come back. Cause my foot is screwed up, so I need to. I'll get on my laptop and I'll come back in and join you, and I'll
Absolutely,
watch live timing and try and help you.
absolutely, absolutely, no problem. So we'll expect you back.
All right, man. I'll be right back.
So for those of you watching by television, that's Tom Schubeck. He will be rejoining us from another room, and in the meantime, we are here waiting to switch over to warm up. So we just want to remind our folks out there that North American Grand Prix is um, is donator supported. Okay, it's free for our members in terms of that we don't charge you anything to race with us. However, it does cost about $300 a month for us to keep this league up and running. So we just want to encourage you guys that get something out of NAGP, or those that are watching by broadcast, if you feel compelled, go ahead and reach into your pockets and throw us a few bucks every month if you can afford it, every few months, and help us out. And for those of you that are contemplating coming and racing with us, hey, grab yourself a copy of Simbin's GTR2. That's the sim of choice here at NAGP. Load up the car pack and the track pack and come and join us for either Monday or Thursday night racing. Lots of competition from the front of the field to the back of the field. So some of the drivers have made their way out on track right now. Typically what you'll see out of most of our drivers here during the warm-up is a real quick lap, so that way they can come back around and test their pit entry speeds, because these tracks will be making a mandatory one stop. Some may even have to make two, depending on just how much they are pushing it, but certainly they will probably be testing their pit in speeds and stuff like that now. And some guys even go to the extent of testing their takeoffs from the line. Here at NAGP, we do use standing starts. There are no rolling starts on any of the tracks that we use currently. So these are standing starts, and these high horsepower, 600 horsepower GT1 cars can be a handful coming off of that line when you smash the accelerator.
Hey Ken, it's Tom here back. I was just talking to Salem down there. Salem's in the game in the pits, so he can help you out, because I can't get in, so I'm just going to be more of a burden than anything, trying to keep up to date with what's going on.
Oh, we have Salem in the broadcast booth. Welcome, Salem.
Thanks, Ken. Great to be here.
It's good to have you. Absolutely. So we've just been chit-chatting back and forth a little bit about the Zandvoort track and the fact that this is the inaugural race for these boys here.
Absolutely. And GT1 series, I know it was run in GT2. I happened to miss it the other season that it was run. But as you all were saying earlier, it's really tough on rear tires, especially if the temp gets up there.
Yep, that it is. And we were talking about some of these mid-engine cars, in particular the Saleen. That thing at just about any track is pretty heavy on tires, so I can just imagine what this track will be like for the likes of Alex White and Kreshnik Khalili, who's also driving the Pirelli shod Saleens.
Absolutely. Me absolutely being a teammate of Alex. I haven't been much of a teammate this season, but that Saleen on Michelin's is it's a rough ride after about 8 to 10 laps. The car just changes dynamics on you drastically.
Yep, but you know what? That's why it takes two dynamic drivers such as yourself and Alex to drive such a car.
I know what you mean. I wish if it wasn't due to my schedule, actually Alex kind of talked me into just kind of showing up whenever I could, but thought I could show up a little better, but I've been missing it due to some coursework and work and everything. So he's been great though. He's had his disconnect issues, but other than that, he's been flying, and he's able to just hold on to the car, for a full stint.
Yep, he's been doing as best as he could, and yeah, he was suffering a few weeks there with some serious disconnect issues. We don't know what happened, but it's good that it seems to have turned around for him on Monday, and he's doing well here tonight. So definitely good to see Alex back in the thick of things.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, I'm gonna just go ahead and leave the broadcast to you guys, because I'm gonna be so. The delay for me is going to be just hard to deal with. So I'm just going to sit back and enjoy your guys' broadcast, and you guys have fun, okay?
All right, well, that sounds good. And Tom, again, thanks for everything. As always, it's unfortunate, but you go ahead, get better, feel better, and enjoy the broadcast.
Absolutely,
thanks,
Tom.
Guys. Thanks for sitting in, Salem.
Oh, thank you. No problem.
Yeah, so a little bit of a change here. It'll be a little dynamic, but Salem, it's good to have you. And I'm looking forward to an interesting race here tonight, man. It's Zandvoort.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Myself, I'm not too accustomed to the track, but it looks like one of those that I would love. It seems almost like a rhythm. Once you get a rhythm down to it, you get your car set up to just slightly oversteer. It's a great track. So
Yeah, no doubt it is. And, I did drive this. I did get to drive it during the GT2 season that we had several seasons ago when we ran this car. We ran this track for the GT2, and boy, I'll tell you, it was a challenge for me then, with all of the elevation changes, and you even have some blind corners. So very interesting and challenging track.
absolutely, these guys they're geared for it though. It'll be interesting to see. Be nice to have a nice tight top 10 battle though. I'm looking at the top 10s, actually even down to Rich, and I know he's carrying some weight, but it's going to be interesting that top 11 though. Those guys can fly around here.
Well, we're past the halfway point, so I know that driver points for some of the guys that are at the top or within the top 10, maybe even top 12, right now, they wanna make it count. They want to make it count. Second half of the season, this is where they got to start laying down the law, and we're probably going to be seeing some of the guys push really hard going forward till the end of the season.
Yes, it takes a strong mentality to be halfway through the season, and depending on how you've done, if you haven't been as strong, or like for Alex, has been a great strong driver around here, but having other technical glitches, you can kind of grab the steering wheel a little too tight, as we saw one season with David Pohl.
Yep.
Awesome drivers champion.
Yep.
And so it takes a strong mentality to go on from here.
That it does. So let's go ahead and do the rundown. You do the first five, I'll do the second, and we'll just 5 and 5 back and forth.
Absolutely. All right, we've got at pole position Alex White. Position 2, we've got Brian Mongrain. Good to have him back. 3, we've got John Ludden. 4, Marty Urin. 5, David Pohl.
And starting sixth, Aaron Parsons. Andres Prado will start seventh. Chris Moses in eighth. Rich Roman in 9. John Sportelli in 10th.
Jonathan Cuppett in 11, Mike Greatrix in 12th, Kresnik Halili in 13th, Jared Keene in 14th, Al Merriman 15th.
Starting in 16th, Brad Maris. John McIntyre will start 17th. Bjorn Heyman 18th. Sam Rolfe in 19th. And John Wathen in 20th.
We have bringing up the 21st, Gup Douglas, Sergio Calderon in number 22, Jaime Moore, 23, Lou Mascarelli, the 24th position, and Carlos De La Torre in the 25th.
And starting 26th, Andres Cole, Marco Conti 27th, Greg Myers 28th, and yeah, that's your running order. I almost counted you, Salem. But we are about to go. We're on board with Alex White, your leader. They're revving the engines and they're off.
Oh, great start, as usual, by Alex.
Alex White with the whole shot. Brian Mongrain is going to tuck in right behind him, but in third, boy, Marty Urin gets a jump, and he's going to tuck in third.
Oh, yes. This is looking very clean indeed.
Yep, we're going to cycle through the field here as they come around turn 3, I believe that is, and so far so good. I see all the cars on track. Oh, one of the Salines gets an off. Might be Kreshnik Khalili. We'll check that in a second. Kreshnik battling with his partner Marco Conti, who's in right behind him. Might have been Marco with the off. Carlos De La Torre in 28th, and we have somebody else go. Oh, Bjorn Heyman finds the fence.
Ah, yeah, Sergio also.
Boy, John McIntyre. Somebody's smoking real bad back there.
Smoking bad, yes. It looks like he's lost his wing in the DBR9.
Yep. And Kreshnik looks up. Kreshnik's got a puncture in his left front, so that sucks.
Oh, oh, such bad luck.
But your leader, Alex White, up front, posing a little bit of a gap right now over Brian Mongrain. And here in P3, Marty Uren driving like a possessed man all over the tail of Brian Mongrain, saying, listen, you know what, I think I may have some pace on you. Let me by. But Brian is just shutting the door on him.
Yeah, Marty is one of those oldly wild. I call him the wily old vet. When he gets into his groove, he's very hard to shake off of your rear end, and he makes you think twice by looking in that mirror.
Yeah, he certainly does. And, you know, Jack Ivey goes as far to call him our senior statesman. You know, that's a title of distinction here at NAGP. But, yeah, Marty Uren, boy, I got to tell you, this guy is always on pace. When he's on, he's on. Love the way he drives, and he's such a gentleman out there, unless you rub him the wrong way.
Oh yeah, he can definitely get on you and make it a tough race, the entire race.
So, Marty, you just keep plugging away at the back of Brian Mongrain. We showed you some love. You can point your fans to our broadcast and say, hey, I was on TV. So, P4, David Poole, John Ludden in 5th, and Andres Prieto now all over the back of John Ludden. Now, here's the thing that Tom Shubes and I were talking about. This track is, in the dry weather, is probably a little bit too much for these Vipers. Considering, you know, front engine cars, they're heavy, left to right transitions may be a little bit slower than some of the other cars. So Andres certainly will probably have his hands full with the Viper and the competition that's ahead of him.
Yeah, a driver that can handle it, though, I'd have to say is Andres. He just seems to be able to, just like Alex and Brad, they can just drive the wheels off about anything, and he's carrying no weight, unlike his teammate Brad. So, David has a lot to have to worry about, and John Ludden, because John is going to have, I think, some difficulties in the Pagani, seeing that he's carrying about 88 pounds, which is about 40 kilos.
Boy, I got to tell you that, you know what, 1 through 10, Sportelli currently in P10. These guys are freight training around the track right now. They are putting a gap all over P11 and everybody else in the back, but these guys are just nip-tucked right in one right behind the other.
That's what I thought it would be. As I said at the top of the broadcast, looking up to about position 11, that top 10 looks like they were going to be pretty close. Now Alex is starting to stretch it a little. He's got his own race right now, about 3 seconds ahead. So he's pretty much about the gap that's over Mike Greatrix and Sportelli.
Yeah, interestingly enough, and you know what? Again, you are the other half of Axis of Awesome for GT1, so you know the car's characteristics and the car's behavior. I'm just wondering what Alex's strategy here is, trying to put such a gap on the rest of the field.
I know that he's got the car dialed in, as you can see, of course, by laps, and and Alex is one of those ones. Even for you and me, if the car is starting to get away, he can still drive it fast enough that he's doing basically the average lap time of all the other guys, even when the rear tires are going away. So strategy-wise, the car does pretty good on fuel overall, and if he's probably added a little more wing, give it a little more downforce. So I don't think he'll have if he has no technical glitches, I think this should be in the bag for him, actually.
All right, there you go. The prediction from Salem Montgomery Jr. Concerning Alex White in P1, currently just putting on a bit of a driving clinic here at Zandvoort.
Yeah, I mean, every time you look up, the guy is gaining about a tenth or two every second. So he's almost got Brian by 4.5 seconds.
Yeah, in about a half lap's time too. So yeah. So P2, Brian Mongrain and Marty Uren, David Poole, who in these last few weeks, I gotta say, Salem, David Poole has been putting on a push in both GT2 and GT1.
Yes, now if it stays close like this, I would say David is the guy that's going to benefit in that DBR9. It may not have the grunt of the F40 that Marty has or some of the other ones, but it's pretty good on tires. That's one thing I know David strategizes for. He wants a car that pretty much through the entire stint is going to have about the same characteristics. So that makes it easy to drive. He doesn't wear himself out.
Yeah, and you know what? David, being a real world pilot in real life, his attention to detail, I'm pretty sure, is impeccable. And he's a great setup guy. I've used him previously, as I was telling Shubes, for a race that we did at Spa on GT2. And he gave me 3 setups. And boy, I got to tell you that all 3 of them were spot on. So he pays attention to detail. He's meticulous in his setup work when it comes to his racing. And lately it's been showing with some pretty positive results.
You hit it right on the head. David is one. He looks at all the details. Where it's funny, we didn't know that about each other, but it makes for good teammates. So we spot things very quickly, and we're sort of anal about things. So we just really gun for perfection. So his setup on Monday, if anything, is to say I jumped right into it on Monday, had no practice, and his setup was awesome. I got 3rd, as you saw.
That's right, and I saw the post that you had made in the forum afterwards. But yeah, it's a testament to his attention to detail, as we just discussed, and his working knowledge of car setup. So that's an added benefit of having someone like that here at this league, and that's what makes NAGP such an awesome and tremendous league. You have a pool of talent in just about every area of this hobby, and these guys they're good guys, willing to help you out. Ask a question and there's usually an answer right away. David Poole and a bunch of other guys such as yourself and Jack Ivey, Alan, Chris, that put a lot of work into our forums to make sure that we keep up the level of professionalism that we have here in NAGP, and it shows in our racing week after week.
Absolutely. It looks like Alex has got about a 6-second lead now. As I said, about every lap he's pulling about a half a second or more away from the field.
Well, no surprise there. Jack likes to call him White Lightning. I like to call him Dr. Alex. He's putting on a clinic.
Oh yeah. He's putting on a clinic, absolutely. But I tell you what, it's pretty close back here around about 6th, where Andres Prieto is, to about the 11th, where John Sportelli is. And then it gaps to Al about 7 seconds.
Yep, I just jumped on board with you. I actually got on board with Aaron Parsons, who's given a little bit of a hard time to Andres Prieto, who is Prieto running in P6 and Parsons in P7. Driving the McLaren F1, seems to have it all over the back of that Viper. Another driver that's been showing some really good driving genius, Rich Roman, the Matt Kroc Chevrolet Corvette C6R. Lately, he's been showing some really good pace around here with that Corvette, so he's figured something out, I'd say.
Absolutely, and Rich is carrying some pretty good weight tonight himself with 30 kilos. It's about 66 pounds, so it's to be right there in the mix of Aaron and the mid-engine car of Aaron's. That McLaren is fast, even though Aaron I know is carrying about 20 kilos, which is about 44 for the viewers out there, 44 pounds.
Yep. And right behind Roman, Chris Moses, who had the good fortune of back-to-back wins, one in GT2 on Monday several weeks back, and then that very same week scored his 2nd win, but in GT1. So here's another driver that's been putting in the work, putting in the homework, and doing his research, and having that car hooked up, that Maranello 550.
Absolutely. Going back to Aaron with that mid-engine, he's just able to get that those switchbacks just right, and his hounding of Prieto is allowing John to kind of breathe a little bit easier, in that Pagani. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can go the entire stint.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it stays this way for the first stint, you know what? Then no doubt the pit rotations are going to play a very important part, as well as if they come up on lap traffic. You can always use lap traffic if you're really good around lap traffic to your benefit, to try and establish a gap between yourself and the person behind you. I have no such luck because I don't drive that well, but but I know the strategy.
Hey, I understand it. Don't worry.
I'll get there one day, Salem. One day I'll get there.
Hey, like Thomas was saying earlier, you guys are doing just fine. I know in the GT team broadcast, GT2, you and Jack and that Viper. Don't worry. I think coming around at Imola, you're pretty strong there. So.
Yeah, Imola is one of my stronger tracks, so I'm hoping for halfway decent. If I get top 20 at Imola, I'd be very happy. So that's my goal for Imola.
It's doable. Well, I tell you, there's a pretty good battle, looks like, between Jared and Brad back here with Jonathan Cuppet just in front of him.
Boy, I got to tell you, great minds must think alike, because I am on board with Jared Keene just as you started to make that announcement, and I am looking at Brad just put all kinds of pressure on Jared. Boy, they say that if you apply enough pressure to something, it will break at some point, but I don't know. Jared Keene seems to be holding a tight line.
Yeah, he's in the right car to have Brad hounding him. If he was in a front engine car, Brad would probably be able to get him to crack. But like I said, Brad's got to, he's got to worry about the weight he's carrying in that trunk of that front engine Viper. So it's going to be difficult to see what he can do for the entire stint.
Yeah, boy, I got to tell you, I was telling Shubes earlier in the broadcast that Brad Maris having qualified so low, I believe that we were seeing the effects of that success ballast that he's carrying around.
Absolutely.
Tight
twist. Because we know he's driver. Yeah, he's instructor extraordinaire, as I call him.
Yeah, no, he absolutely is. But this is a fairly tight and twisty track where you got to have these GT1 cars lack no torque. But, you add the ballast in and things can get a little dicey for you. And then your gearing and setup have to be key. Oh, and it looks like Brad Maris may have touched the back of Jared Keene and puts him off track.
Oh, no.
So that will push...
Yeah, Jared's drop.
Yeah, it's dropped them back to P17 right now. It looked like there was contact between Brad Maris and Jared Keene. But not 100% sure, but that's what it looked like.
If it was, I know that's not something that Brad, it's not something that's common. So hopefully Jared can hold on to it, keep his head down, and he should be able to work his way back up.
Yep, no, absolutely. So we're going to go down a little bit further. Marco Conti in P18 being hounded by Bjorn Heyman in the Koenigsegg. Boy, I got to tell you, and this is just my opinion, but this is the broadcast, and we are the broadcasters tonight, so we can pretty much say whatever we want. I just think the Koenigsegg is an ugly car. That's just my opinion of it. I just think it's ugly. But, some of the guys swear by it. I don't know.
I'll take the other side of that coin. I grew up loving the car. I don't know what it is, but then again, I'm a fan of the old CC. So this one, I can get into it. I think this is. I don't know if this is more of the CCX variant. But I kind of when they first started the company, I really enjoyed their designs. So, but it can start to, like any car, can start to get a little dated. So,
yep. And like I said, folks out there that are watching live, this is only my opinion of it. But as we are broadcasting, we can say whatever we want.
Absolutely.
All right, so moving a little bit further back, because we want to give everybody some love. Good battle going on. Sam Rolfe in P20 right now. He's got both green Aston Martins. Let's see here. Sam Rolfe 20th, Gub Douglas in 21st, Sergio Calderon in P22. So an Aston Martin and a Ferrari. Lou Mascherelli currently running in 23rd, and Carlos De La Torre. Carlos De La Torre is one of our newer members here, and he's trying to learn the ropes of NAGP, and he's been quiet even in Ventrilo. I haven't heard him speak yet, but certainly love to reach out to him and just offer a hand, maybe anything that we can do to help him gain a little speed, because he's been trying. He certainly has been trying, and I give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were kind of discussing it on Monday. So the good, like you said at the top of the hour, is that the great thing about NAGP, NorthAmericanGP.com, is that it's a real nice family of guys that really love driving and don't mind helping you with setup. You know, no one tries to hide anything. So I really love that.
Nope, absolutely. And you know what? Um, it's a community and it's a culture here at NAGP. So good stuff going on. John McIntyre, 25th, and I believe he's the last of the running cars. Yep, he is the last of the running cars. So we'll go up front to Alex White for a little while, and wow, 12-second
Yeah,
lead.
12 seconds. As I said, yeah, the car is it's amazing.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. It really is. He's just out there driving around like he's practicing. But
It's if you can just get the handle on the rear end, if you can set the car up because it's a great car, good amount of power. Yeah, great downforce, nice mid-engine. Yeah. And that's just it. He can be totally comfortable. Now that he's got a gap, he doesn't really have to try to turn really, a lot of hot laps. So he can kind of save his tires. But like I said, no technical glitches. This should be hands down Alex's race. As you can
yeah,
see.
I'd have to
But
agree.
I tell you what, it's a nice battle going on where John Ludden is being sandwiched right in. So hopefully he can hold on to his tires with that weight. Tell you what, though, Brian in second, and he's running great. To be able to keep hold Marty at about a second a lap, is amazing.
Yes, sir, absolutely. On board with John Ludden right now. So, well, my timing got a little screwy here because seems to be updating kind of weird over here. I don't know what's going on, but the running order seems to be right nonetheless. So maybe you can keep us updated with the gaps and stuff like that because I'm showing 0 seconds from 1 to 3, and we know that just
All
ain't the
right.
case.
Oh, no. No. Alex has almost a 13-second lead over Brian now. Uh, Brian's about a second gap between he and Marty, and then there's about a second in. Maybe almost second and a half between Dave.
Yep.
David and Marty, and in about a second between John Ludden and David Pohl. So it's staying pretty constant. Guys are really keeping their heads about them and running good pace, actually. Tell you what, there's a tight battle between Rich Roman and John Sportelli, seventh and over that seventh position, and also between Jonathan Cuppet and Brad Marys. So this is going to get very interesting, though. It'd be nice to see what's going to happen with strategies. For some of these guys, we already know Prieto is a very good strategist when it comes to pit stops. He's excellent in the pits. So is Moses, Chris Moses, and Aaron Parsons. So it's going to be interesting to see. how
Yep.
this will turn out.
And speaking of,
Still there, Ken?
yep, I am here. Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Yep, I had lost audio there for a while. So, speaking of pit strategists, like you mentioned, Andres Prado as well as Chris Moses, Jack Ivy likes to call Chris the pit wizard. He tends to have fairly good strategies in and out of the pits as fast as possible, just about as fast as anyone else. But like you said, Andres really good in the pits, man. He doesn't waste any seconds if he doesn't have to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going back to even on Monday in the GT2. I know my teammate David Pohl. I know he had some couple of glitches. Got a new wheel, so it took him about a second or two to get fueling. But from where Andres had dropped to where after the pit rotation, it was amazing. He's pretty much on David's bumper. So
Salem, the rain is coming.
oh yes, it's starting to darken.
Yep, and we're getting raindrops out on the track.
This will be interesting now. Now this is the glitch, part of the glitch. We will see what Alex and those guys can do. He has a sufficient gap, but I think the Ford GT1 may do a little better on these tires if it does start to get a little damp out there. Could get to be a handful for Alex.
Maybe. Right now I'm on with the boss, Al Merriman, in P11, and just watching his egos around the track. Looks like they're getting rain throughout most of it, but there may be some areas of the track that hasn't seen the rain yet. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out now, Salem.
Yes, it will be. And at the temperatures, it looks like the track has already gone damp. So this is going to be very interesting.
Boy, oh boy, I tell you, 102 damp with a 90 ambient, and we saw this towards the end of qualifying.
Yes, it's amazing what this mod can do.
But I got to tell you, though, I like it because, you know what, it adds another element of challenge to our racing here week after week, and, you know, it's a crapshoot. You just don't know what you're going to get, especially when the chance of rain is average.
Absolutely. And as you all were talking in the beginning of the broadcast, you know, Thomas, some great advice. You know, it's something a couple of seasons ago, I realized was setting up, you know, it's better to set the car up, you know, lightly in the dry and then test it out in the rain to get it fine-tuned. So it does help.
I got to tell you, that is an awesome strategy. Starting this weekend, when I start testing for our next race, I am going to do just that. I think I'm going to work on making a killer wet setup and try it out in the dry, maybe make a few changes, and hopefully it'll hold the benefit.
Absolutely. You know, you don't want to, as Thomas was saying in the beginning, was that it's not so much you want a super wet setup or a super dry setup, especially it all depends on the track. If it's, as he was saying, average or above. If it's average or above, you really want a car, or around average, you want a car that can balance well in both situations. But if it's all out, gonna rain, then maybe you can err on the side of a wet setup. You know, if it's a really low chance, then maybe you go maybe 3/4 towards having a super dry setup. So it all plays into that whole strategy that, again, like I said, it's what you love about the weather mod.
Yep, absolutely. On board with P14, Mike Graytrix, who's being chased by Jaime Moore and Andres Cole. Andres Cole having to serve a no qual tonight, and yep, he's made his way up into the last points paying position, and he is fighting really hard with Jaime Moore, and Mike Graytrix just trying to stay away. Boy, it's going to get interesting. I got to say that with this rain now, damp track, things are going to change. It's going to...
Yes, the GT1 is the biggest change overall in the car pack when it comes to weather changes. You know, because as you said, they have a lot of torque, a lot of power, good amount of downforce. But you just get to a corner so fast that sometimes you can outbrake yourself, you know, especially if you've done a lot of your practice in the dry.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Like I said, I've made that mistake before. So we are seeing the lap times drop. Alex White, 3 laps ago, went from a 133 to 138, 136 and 137. So, yeah, we're starting to see the effects of the damp track.
Oh, yeah, it makes a big difference. But you know what? I think Brian is kind of handing it to him because at first he had it down to about a 10-second gap. Alex has now pushed it over the last few laps back up to over 13 seconds. So.
Well, I can tell you this much. The Ford GTs in the rain, they are fantastic. However, that being said,
Yes.
you got to have the right tires on there. So right now, these guys are out there on slicks. We know that. And this is where the disadvantage comes in for the Ford GT1.
Absolutely. That is very correct. So we will see. It all depends on how well Alex holds on to the rears. But the rain certainly can help a bit. So you kind of get the temperature to come down a little.
So not much has changed in terms of positions. I'm just scrolling through the top, maybe 10 right now, and it seems that everything for the most part has stayed the same with the exception of Aaron Parsons. He might have had an off. I'm looking at his car. He's got the front end is smashed a bit, so he may have had an off and lost his positions back to P10. Chris Moses in P9, there's a bit of a gap there, so sorry we didn't catch that, folks.
Yeah. And what is it? Max laps about 58 laps. So you're talking about pit windows of maybe around 29 laps.
Yep, that would be my guess. I know that there are probably some out there right now that'll try and push it beyond, but I don't know how far they'll be able to go with all of this wet stuff coming down. I mean, this is a gutsy bunch of drivers here. But we're currently working only on lap 17.
Yeah, and I tell you what, Brian really is just kind of holding form, which is a good thing because it looks like Marty is kind of falling back a bit. And Alex has kind of stabilized his gap with Brian at about 13.5 seconds. There's a battle with John Lutton and David Pohl, though. They're only separated by less than about 3 to 4 tenths of a second, so this is interesting.
Yep, it is. And I'm watching John Ludden right now. He's had a couple of lurches, so we know that this wet stuff is probably starting to have the effect on the Pagani Zonda. But if it's affecting the Pagani, it's affecting them all. So very interesting to see how he's going to handle this situation now with the rain.
Yeah, but you know, this kind of benefits John actually. He's got the Pirellis on that thing, and that car I had it last season. It's really good in the wet.
Fantastic. And, you know, you want to have a good car when you have somebody like Andres Prado behind you, because you never know what Andres Prado is capable of, especially if he decides that he wants to have a good day. So keep it together there, John.
Absolutely, hold on to it. But John, you know, one good thing about John, he's very consistent driver. I know in just our practicing for the non-winners race at Bathurst, that was one thing I was talking to him about. You know, I may have been lap to lap faster, but I knew that there potentially could be an issue there in those V8 supercars we were driving where I might have an issue going off, but he's very consistent.
Yep, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And I believe he suffered a, what was it, a false start in that race?
Yeah, he didn't know the lights start green and then go red and then go green. He got pole, even though I had about almost an 8 tenths. I just didn't make it to the end. And he said it kind of threw him off because in practice we had practiced so much together that he knew I had the pace, so he knew I was right on his bumper. I would be on his bumper at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, that would have shaped up. I think that would have shaped up to be a really, really good, fun race for you two guys. But you were the beneficiary and you were the winner.
Oh, yeah, but you know, I tell you what, that John, he would have gave me a handful. I give him that, so it would have. I don't doubt that he could have won it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. So things are starting to get real slippery right now. On board with P10, Aaron Parsons, who's putting one of the Pirelli shod Salines down a lap in the early going. But like I said, Parsons has all kinds of damage to the very front of his car. So definitely going to hurt some of the lap times there, even in the wet. Al Merriman sitting in 11th.
Yeah, and he's got Brad about 2 seconds behind him, so this is getting interesting. You can see him kind of sliding that 550 through the corners there. Hold on to it, Al.
Yep, Big Al Merriman, the boss here at NAGP. He's out there competing.
Looks like we looks like we've got our first one into the pits, which is Jared Keene, and with Lou Mascarelli. Looks like they're teammates coming in. So interesting strategy.
Well, yeah, no doubt for a tire change. Not sure how they're going to work this. Are they going to be taking tires and fuel, or I'm pretty sure that at this point, if you're in the pits, you might as well go ahead and take a fuel stop because you're going to have to stop again.
Absolutely, and question becomes: do you take inters, or do you feel like there's enough rain out there that will continue to make it go wet? Do you take hard wets at this point? But you could suffer if it stops raining. So it's going to be interesting to see. Well, Jared's back out, so that was a pretty quick stop.
Yeah, that was pretty quick. He may have just only taken tires, and no doubt with a damp track, I'm pretty sure he took inters. Because boy, I think that anything softer than an inter right now may just be shooting yourself in the foot.
Right. But then again, if it goes wet, I'm not sure if it's raining hard enough just yet. But if it goes wet, it can be a handful on those inters.
Well, I got to tell you this much. In GT2 earlier this season, we raced at Interlagos, and as you know, it was pretty crappy weather, and I did an Alain Prost a la Donington circuit and pitted 5 times. I just couldn't get it right on tires. I just couldn't until I finally put the softs on.
Oh, we've got Jaime Moore hounding Mike Graytrix for the 14th position here, it looks like.
All right, let's go ahead and get up there for you. Yep, Mike Graytrix in P14. He's got his headlights going there. Driving for his dear life, giving Mike some love. He's
Tell you what.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I tell you what, that Jaime Moore, a lot of these newer guys coming in from Colombia, they are really getting strong, I tell you, and consistent.
Yep, that they are, and you know, certainly they have Andres Prado that's been working with them quite a bit, and I guess, you know, sharing some of his knowledge with these guys. And, you know, certainly our Colombian friends, they are fast, boy. I got to tell you, even the folks that race in the GT2 Monday night series, very quick, very quick.
Oh, yes. And you've got Brad hounding Big Al Merriman for the 10th position. And, I mean, he's staying right with him.
Yep, and boy, I see that Brad is sliding that Viper around, so I can just imagine he is grasping the steering wheel as if it were made of fine crystal, and just feathering, so feathering that throttle ever so softly and so gently as he puts the move on the boss and takes away P10.
Absolutely.
Jonathan Cuppet back in P12. Mike Graytrix still holding on to 13th. 14th goes to Jaime Moore. David Poole, boy, he's in 15th. I'd like to see if he had a pit stop. He may have come into the pits, David Poole.
I would think so. I don't think that David looks like he's had any kind of major issue. So then again, he does seem to be sliding the car around. So maybe he did have an off.
Boy, that'd be interesting. Jonathan Cuppet now ducks into the pits as we go to the leaderboard over here, and Alex White having established an 18-second gap over Brian Mongrain, which is absolutely phenomenal given the fact that these guys are driving in the wet. Alex just keeping it moving and not losing any ground whatsoever to Brian Mongrain.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know, looking at timing and scoring and lap times for David Paul, it looks like he had a pit stop. Looked like he had a lap time of about 2 minutes 43 seconds and a 1:59 just before that.
Oh, yep, I just caught that now. I saw the 1:59 beforehand, which was making me think he may have had an off, so or he could have had an off. But it looks like he's out there boogieing now.
Oh yes. So I'm just going to err on the side of I believe he had a pit stop, so he's trying to get him warmed up.
So you got Cuppet, Douglas, and Rolf into the pits. Boy, we haven't given Gup Douglas much love tonight. We'll jump on board with him once he's outside of the pits. Bjorn Heyman
Oh
in
yeah.
20th, Jared Keane in 21, Lou Masciarelli in 22, Marco Conti currently running 23rd. And, you know, a little bit surprised to see Marco this far back. Not sure that he has gotten a handle on that saline just yet, but I know that he's missed a couple races with us, perhaps due to some real-world issues. But Marco is one of our drivers that typically will thrive in the rain, as he and
Oh no, he had an off. Oh.
oh well, he's been trying to put it to one of the Corvettes. They were bumping quite a bit there, so it looks like Marco got the short end of that stick.
Oh yeah, that was a big tank slapper. But tell you what, Alex White is, as you said, the doctor is putting on a clinic. He's got about a 19-second gap over Brian.
Yep, and these front runners still have not come in for their pit stop. So, you know what? They're driving around on ice skates right now, and no doubt they're probably trying to just stretch the stint till the pit window, because we know, if there's one thing we know, the weather mod that we use and GTR2, anything can happen. This thing can go full on wet or monsoon. We just don't know. So I'm pretty sure that they're just stretching it. They're stretching it as best they can.
Yeah, temps have come down, and the track did actually go wet a couple of laps ago. So this will be, as I said, interesting for Jared and Lou, depending on what they took as tires since they came in so early.
And Salem, I have to say that this is probably what separates those that end up with great finishes versus those that don't. We have some guys out here, some drivers running in the front that are very familiar with how the weather tends to work around these parts, and they will hold off pitting, under a panic situation, just to keep themselves going as best as they can and wait till the pit window comes. Let's wait till the pit window comes and see what's going to be at that time, and then I guess just make a decision based on what's going on when they do finally come into the pits.
Absolutely. And as I said, Alex, being one of the better drivers, especially in that saline, I mean, it's just amazing what he can do on slicks, even with it being wet. I mean, the guy is still running really well. And Brian, like I said, it's still about almost a 20-second gap. So Alex can kind of let the guys that have changed their tires come in. And as you said, what I've learned by being in the league is you try to stay out as long as you can, get a feel for what you think the weather's doing, and knowing the track in practice. Looks like Ludden may have lagged a bit here.
Oh boy, yep, it looks like Ludden may have. Oh, it seems like he's trying to move in. Bjorn Heyman swerving. Looks like the boss swerved around him. Oh, that would be really bad, boy. I'll tell you, that would be really bad if Ludden just lagged right there. Well, that's essentially right on the racing line, too.
Yes, and it's just the guys are doing great to avoid it. But that is just such a bad feeling. Just a bad way to have to go out.
I think we may have lost Ludden. Oh, no, well, he's still out there.
I've got Chris coming in for his pit stop. Let's see if he gets up on the... I'm pretty sure he's going to go ahead and take some fuel. This should be a perfect pit stop. It was so close to the pit window. I think that's why, as I was looking at Jared and Lou come in, I'm thinking a little too early, because if the track had gone damp a few laps prior, I would have my strategy would have been to stay out as long as I could to see it actually go wet, then come on in.
Yep. And just a quick update on Ludden. Unfortunately, we did lose John Ludden. Looks like his system may have froze up.
Yeah, because he was able to stay out there for a pretty good amount of time. So Oh, hate to see that happen to anyone. I know how it feels. It happened to me at Interlagos after 59 laps, after almost 2 hours, 59 laps of 69, and to lag out.
That's a heartbreaker, boy. I gotta tell you, that's a heartbreaker.
Yeah, especially to start from 42nd position and get all the way up to the 7th position.
Yeah, boy, I remember that. But man, that Interlagos race was just packed, man. We had so many drivers show up for that race.
Yes, we did. It was amazing, actually. I mean, because the weather just changed so many times. So it was just amazing. Again, the weather, giving it to the weather mod. It just, you really have to really know what you want to do. You have to plan really for that race.
So Brian Mongrain, he comes into the pits. Alex White stays out. No surprise there, right? Because I know Alex likes to just keep running until he's near empty. But you got Mongrain in
Absolutely.
P2 out in the pits, and it looks like I don't know if Poole. Yeah, Poole might get may get to take over P2, but Alex still out there right now. We're gonna just jump on board with your leader right now.
Yeah. And I think what Alex is really trying to do is if he's monitoring his lap times, and if he can keep a decent pace, the longer he can go, and seeing that wet tires usually last a little, or I should say they don't last as long if the weather was to go dry. So he wants to get a good idea of what this weather is going to do.
Yeah, perhaps you're right, and I believe that to be true. Now, just taking a quick look at our forecast over here, it's 98 and wet with a 90 ambient. However, the forecast is still for rain. Doesn't look like we're expecting any thunder showers or any type of monsoon type of weather. So, I know that the drivers out on track, they cannot see that. As some of these
Right.
guys that have pitted already go and they unlap themselves from Alex White. So, I think, I don't know. What do you think, Salem? Will we see Alex probably come in this lap or next?
Yeah, I think what Alex is trying to do is get to the normal halfway point. So that being around 29 laps, he's done about 26. He's working on that one, so he could be coming in about a lap or so, and then that way he'll take his tires and he'll be able to, go basically further than most of these other guys will.
Right, and you did say
Keeping his
that,
pace.
and you did say that the Saline has good fuel economy, so I'm sure that it's capable of making the second stint all the way to the end if needed. But Alex certainly sliding that Saline all around. We are on board with
Oh yeah.
Dr. Alex, and yeah, he's sliding it. So I predict this lap, maybe next, he'll be coming
Yeah,
in.
I don't think he's going to chance it. Yeah, he at this point you can see it's a handful now. So I think he's got a feel, and he's probably radioing to some of those guys in the other channel. How's grip feeling? What tires did they go to? What temps? And then that way he'll know exactly what to do once he comes into the pit.
Yep, no doubt. Taking every advantage that he can. That is a part of the competition here at NAGP. We say that the racing is virtual, but the competition is 100% real, and your leader ducking into the pits.
Yes. My crystal ball usually works well.
Send that crystal ball over this way, okay? I'd like to ask it when I'm finally going to win an NAGP race.
Hey, I've been afraid to ask it myself, so it just keeps saying put the work in.
Hey, man, you've already got one win under your belt, all right? So, no fair, no fair. All right, so let's keep it moving here. Alex is in the pits. We're going to jump on board with David Poole, who has had his pit stop, currently sitting in P2. So he went all the way back to about P17, but quickly worked his way up as these folks started pitting.
Yeah, Alex has just gotten on the jack, so David, Andres are going to take over first and second. Alex should be able to slot in third.
Yep. Now, bear in mind that these guys, now David Poole pitted fairly early. Not sure if that Aston Martin can take such a long second stint. He may have to pit for fuel again.
You know, if anything's gonna beat anyone else, it's that DBR9. I think it gets about one of the better fuel economy cars out there. That's sort of the trade-off for it not having the grunt.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this plays out for David Poole. He's now taking over your top spot as he just seems to be wanting to floor it. But right behind him, Andres Preto, P2 with the Viper. We've seen these guys test all sorts of strategies with fuel when it comes to the Viper. And we know that they are able to stretch it out with some taller gears. But don't think that's the case here, because looking at Preto's lap times, he had a pit stop about 4 laps back. So he's probably going to challenge David for that lead.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting because Alex is about 14 seconds behind Andres, and we know it's going to be somewhat difficult to get past Prieto, and that's his biggest challenge. The good thing, though, is that Alex being in the saline and now having taken fresh tires, if he can stay calm, he's going to work his way back up. And I think by the time he gets up there, he'll have a little more meat on the tires to get around. He may have even, I don't even doubt that he may have put softs on, and we'll see what he can do to the end. But if looking at the weather and temperature, I think he probably gambled on the better side, or I should say went with some hard wets.
Perhaps just quickly jumped on board with Brian Mongrain, who after the pit rotations currently sitting in P6, being followed by P7 Aaron Parsons, Moses in 8, Marty Urin in 9th. Marty, having been running in 3rd for most of the first stint, had to come in for some wets, and now sitting behind Moses. Brad Maris in 10th, and the boss Al back in 11.
Absolutely.
Now, I'll tell you, Jonathan Cuppet's having a great race, though. P12, very respectable.
You know, one thing about Jonathan that I like is he won't try to overdrive himself. So, and that helps in the rain a lot. You know, we tend to, again, get a little too much dry racing in our blood, and the adrenaline come race day gets pumping, and we get out there in the middle of a race and then it goes wet, and the foot can still be a little too heavy on the first couple of laps. But Jonathan, he really keeps it together.
Boy, I gotta tell you, you're preaching to the choir, because, man, when it gets wet, I get nervous because I know I've not had enough. Not had enough wet practice, and so, you know, that's why I think I'm gonna start changing my strategy with practice and stuff, and hopefully it'll help some.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where the first season that I was in a GT2 series, I picked the Jaguar XKRS, which is no longer in the pack. But when I first joined the league, I was one that liked wet weather driving. Uh-oh, looks like David Pohl has lost the lead to Andres.
Just caught up with you. Yep, he spun it, and that gives Andre the lead right now. So, and Andre's taking it sideways himself.
Oh, this plays into Alex's hands. Oh boy, he has cut that lead down by 5 seconds already.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. I went on board with Alex, see what type of driving attitude he's displaying around the track right now. He seems to be pretty calm, so probably not pushing it way too hard, because you know what? He probably is thinking to himself, well, I've got pace, and I know that I can make up time, so I'm just going to drive my race. But boy, what a heartbreaker for Poole, having spun it in that corner, gave it away to Andres.
Yeah, you know, Andres was putting some pretty good pressure on him, coming into some of the braking zones, and again, as I said earlier, you get out there, nerves, jitters, you start driving from the mirrors, and you lose your braking, your points.
Absolutely, yep. So Preto, Poole, White, Mongrain, and Roman. That's your top 5. But great battle going on right now between Roman and Aaron Parsons, who has worked his way back up. They are side by side. And wow, yep, Aaron is going to put the outside move on Rich Roman.
Yes, he's done it.
Yeah, he made the pass stick, and looks like Roman may have one of his headlights that got popped off there.
And that could be with him carrying the weight, and then if he has any kind of aerodynamic damage, then yeah, that can be a problem, trying to hold off a charging Aaron.
Interestingly enough, Roman, before pitting, had dropped his lap times to a 150, then a 2-minute lap, and then his 245 pit window, and then dropped them right back to where he was at when the rain started to come, around 143, 144. So, he was doing that lap time with slicks on, and he's still doing the same lap times with what I would assume to be some type of a wet weather tire. That's just a bit odd.
Yes, yes. You know, he probably was able to still keep some temp into his tires, so just before his pit rotation, and maybe the weight is also helping to balance the car a bit. You know, when you think about the Mad Crockett Corvette, it really has some good torque, so just the weight doesn't hurt as much, but now that it's gone wet, we'll see what he can do with his. All depends on his tire choice. If he may have gone on inters instead of maybe some hard wets, so it all depends.
Yes, sir. So let's go back here and take a look at our timing. So we are just a little bit past the halfway point of this race, and I am sure that we are going to see some of these drivers with a second pit stop here tonight.
It's going to play into some of those that are prepared. As we say, chance favors the prepared mind. So, you know, I know guys like Chris, Aaron, they're veterans with this wet weather stuff, and Brad to go along with it. Marty, of course, excellent. So they're still running in that top order of around the top 10. So it's still anyone's race, really, because anything can happen. And I tell you what, Alex has really chomped down on David, and he's only 7 seconds away from Andres. So again, his strategy is paying off.
Man, you know who I haven't seen around in a while, Salem? Esteban Palacio. Do we know what's going on with him?
Oh. You know, I was wondering that same thing on Monday because he's such an excellent driver. He's been doing this stuff, having talked to SD over the few seasons I've been here, especially this last one. I didn't know he was such an avid virtual driver. He's gone from so many things, especially just like Marty, you know, you're in. So it's surprising not to see him, especially I think after everyone saw what he was able to do with the C6 about 2 or 3 seasons ago in the GT2. Just surprising not to see him and only see his teammate Mike Monahan, but hopefully he'll be back soon.
Yeah, that's my hope. I like watching ST run around. So Prato in the lead, followed by now Alex White, who passed David Poole. Sorry we missed it, folks. But Dr. Alex, White Lightning, he has gotten by Mr. Poole. And Brian Mongrain, he moves up to 4th. Aaron Parsons moves up to 5th. And Roman in 6th, followed, being hounded actually by Sportelli.
And trust me, Andreas is really trying to put the hammer down at this point because he can see in timing on XD charging Alex, I guarantee you. And he knows he's few laps he's going to have his hands full.
Well, I'll tell you what, it'd be interesting to watch, so we're going to stay up front as long as we can right now, because if there's one thing Andres can do when not under too much pressure, and certainly when he is not trying to overdrive the car, is he can make that Viper very wide and hard to get around. So we're going to have to see how this one plays out, because, you know, the element of chance here, it's the rain. The rain can throw a wrench into your plans, so we'll just have to see if Alex can, one, catch him, and then what's going to be the plan for Prato once he sees that blue 01 Saline coming up in his rearview mirrors.
Absolutely. You know, if you want to run through, Ken, I'll keep an eye on their timing and where they're at, and I'll let you know as Alex kind of gets a little closer.
Yeah, absolutely. So we currently have 20 running cars. In P1, Andres Prato, Alex White in P2, David Poole P3, Brian Mongrain in P4. Aaron Parsons is currently running in P5. In P6 is John Sportelli, Rich Roman in 7th. He is being hounded by Chris Moses in P8. And right behind Moses is Marty Uren in P9. Brad Maris running out there by himself right now, currently in P10. And Al Merriman, the boss, not too far behind in P11. Jonathan Cuppett with a very respectable position right now. He's running in P12. Good on you, Jonathan. Keep it clean and keep it smooth. Gub Douglas driving the green Aston Martin DBR9 in P13. And Bjorn Heyman in P14 in the Koenigsegg. Andres Cole, the other Bad Croc Chevrolet, running in P15. Mike Graytrix, teammate to Marty Uren in Skidmark Racing, currently running in P16 in the Ferrari F40. Jaime Moore, P17, Ferrari 575, being followed by Sergio Calderon in P18, also in the 575. Lou Mascherelli in P19 takes it off the track. Currently trying to get back on the track, going in reverse. Oh, that may get him a penalty for an unsafe rejoin. 20th is Carlos Delatorre. That is your running order.
And you've got a great battle going with Rich Roman and Chris Moses. Chris provisionally had gotten past him on the straight, and then Rich was able to hold him on the turn and get back on the inside, and was able to get back by. So they're having a good battle.
Yep, and now you know what? I see Marty Uren right behind Chris Moses. They're about to go side by side. Nope, Uren backs off, but Uren saying, you know what? If Roman can get some of that action, I want in this party too. I don't want to be left out. So Marty Uren driving a heck of a race.
I tell you what, Chris has got something right. It's probably his tire choice, and we know he's great with car setup. So, as I said, veterans to this changing weather, and it plays well for him actually in that 550. Don't know what happened to David. Looks like he must have come into the pits. Chris is taking it off though. Marty's gotten by Chris. Now he's charging up to Rich Roman.
Yep, and that's an interesting turn of developments, right? Because now looks like Uren is showing great pace, perhaps a glimmer of hope, or he's just got the better tire choice and a good setup that works both in the. And so Roman takes it wide. That's interesting.
Yeah, he saw Marty coming, and I know he didn't want to take any chances. It's better to err on the side of caution. Marty's charging. You don't want Marty on your bumper in the wet, because his wet setups, his overall setup going from dry to wet is second to none.
Oh, I don't doubt it, and I agree with you. But Roman also handed P7 just handed P7 to Moses without much of a fight. So not sure what's going on with Roman's car, if it may be having some handling issues.
Yeah, I think you said earlier he might have had a light out, so it could be aero damage that is now kind of wearing on his tires. Also, you know, he's carrying that weight, so it makes a big difference, as you said, around here. A lot of twisty parts, and it's going to wear those rears out.
Yep, certainly, no doubt about that. We just jumped back with to P9. Brad Maris, he's not too close, but he's not too far behind. Brad may be taking a peek at XD and saying, hey, you know what, I see the gap closing. Let me push a little harder and see what comes of this. So, be interesting to see what they do.
Oh, looks like Sportelli had an off, and so he gave up his 5th place to Marty, and Chris now has 6.
Very, very interesting here so late in the race, because I would have figured these guys to have come into some sort of a settling type drive. So we are watching Roman now come into the pits. Looks like he may not have made the best choice during his first pit rotation. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think he was. It's a gamble. Most guys will see that. Oh, it stayed wet for so long. You know, if it starts drying out, what tires do I really want to be on? And sometimes you can end up choosing inters over the hard wets. Or there are some guys that can run soft wets that may have put on hard wets, and it causes them to run a little slower.
Well,
looks like Marty lost it.
Interestingly enough, Roman being in the pits just about 12, I'm sorry, 13 laps after his last pit. I'm sure that this will be the last that we see him pit to the end of the race, should the weather remain the same.
Right. Not quite sure what happened to Marty, but he seemed to kind of lose it a little on the braking there. So he's dropped back to 7th. Sportelli is now about a half second off of Moses's bumper. And it looks like Alex is still chewing into Andreas's lead. He's only about 2.5 seconds off.
Yep, Alex White going about to go by Mike Greatrix here, looks like, and I'm pretty sure that Prato knows that Mr. White is not too far behind him.
Oh, he's known probably for the last 5 or 6 laps now. Like I said, when he was about 6 seconds back, you know, one thing is Andreas probably just saying, let me hold on to the tires, but let me keep a good enough pace that hopefully I can run this to the end and make that Viper as wide as possible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd have to agree, and you know, Andres at times he can wear his heart on his sleeve about his driving, because you'll see him sometimes overdrive the car, and this is by his own admission. Okay, so we're not saying anything new here, folks. We're not starting rumors. No. We're not spreading rumors. This is by his own admission, where he knows that there have been times under immense pressure by one of the other fast guys around here, due to the level of competition, he will start to overdrive the car. That's not what we're hoping for here. We're hoping to see a really good, clean battle for that first position.
And see, being one that last season he with his teammate were running so well, they know what that saline can do. So when you know what a car can do, in your mind you're almost sort of already sort of saying, look, if the guy gets close enough, I need to, you know, I can battle him, but you know, let's not overdrive it at this point. So he should have the experience at this point to know, well, you know what, let me live to fight another day. You know, if Alex is this fast, he catches me like this, it's better to be safer than sorry and not finish the race at all.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know what, sometimes it's better to be doing the chasing, because you get to you probably get to focus a little bit more. There's more focus when you're chasing versus leading, because when you're leading, the emotion that tends to take over you is more a worrisome type of feeling versus a you know, I want to focus type of feeling.
Correct. You know, and you start mirror driving a little too much, so you want to get that pressure off of you. You know, it's better to just follow a guy like that around and hope that he makes a mistake.
Sure, absolutely.
Be able to pressure him into.
So we're currently staying up front with Alex White chasing down your race leader, Andres Prieto.
Looks like Andres is going to have to deal with some traffic, some lap traffic too. So again, this bodes well for Alex right now, because he's pitted so late. He's going to have better meat on his tires. You know, fuel wise, he should be good to go towards the end.
They're coming up on Bjorn Heyman.
And Bjorn is doing the right thing, stay high, and let these guys through and let them keep battling. And this is great. Now, one thing Alex has to really not do also himself, being that he wants a win so bad, you know, knowing what he could have done at the last race, he can start to overdrive.
You know, that'd be interesting to see. I cannot personally recall watching Alex ever overdrive anything, but that's not to say that that can't happen here. So it's weird. Like I said, we're staying up front with your leaders right now, because this is shaping up to be an epic battle, and we're going to have to see how this plays out, and we don't want to miss it.
This is what we wanted. This is what the fans wanted. I'm a fan. I'm loving it.
Oh, Prado takes it a little wide, gives Alex an opportunity to get in just a little bit closer.
Oh, yes. Alex is just sizing him up right now to see where he can take him. And he can already see where Andreas is having a tougher time than he is. Like right there. He didn't have to go as high. So he's just gonna watch him a bit. Smart way to do it. And sometimes just by doing this, you can kind of make the guy behind in front kind of overdrive it, so lose a braking point. So we'll see.
Yep, like you stated earlier, you start mirror driving. But you know what? These two, they're professionals. They are good at what they do. Certainly accustomed to racing with one another. A little bit of a lurch by Alex White there.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and get on the bumper cam with Alex White. Man, I could, at this level of racing, I can just imagine you're driving the car. Oh, Andres losing some rear traction.
And he lost his braking point. Perfect for Alex. I told you. It's coming. It's coming. He's going to try to hold that tight inside, which is the way you want to do it. Oh, but that was great. That was great by Andreas. Good way of holding it.
Yep, absolutely epic battle that's forming here, folks. Your race leader, Andres Prado. Go ahead.
A great camera view if you go to Andreas and press page up on the keyboard, and you can turn the cam around with your 4 and 6 on the number on the numpad there, and he can look in reverse and see Alex charging.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, we are on board with Andres Prado looking back.
Oh yeah, look at Alex. That saline just turns in so well.
Wow, Prado taking the defensive line on the inside.
He's making him work those tires. The good thing is Andres does know the saline too, and he knows if he can get Alex to kind of drive it hard and maybe push a little harder, maybe he starts to lose his rear a little.
So Alex, having stuck his nose in just a wee bit behind Andres' rear bumper, these guys are right now on each other like white on rice. This is great racing, folks.
Absolutely. You couldn't ask for anything better. Oh man, two of the best drivers, I tell you, especially in this wet stuff. Oh, there's the opportunity.
Yeah. And Andres overcooks it into one corner, but he quickly gains it back.
Yes. And Alex is nice enough. Now, if this was Andreas on the outside, Alex is going to be kind enough to not try to, force it around on the outside. Andreas is a different driver. He will try to keep it. So this will be interesting. That's what we love. We want this.
Absolutely great competition. Alex White and Andres Prado side by side. This is nail-biting stuff, folks.
Yep, Alex has got him. It's good to go.
Yep, Alex making his stick on the outside. But Prado's going to answer.
He's got the grunt, but let's see. Alex is kind. This is good driving, though. He's going to be safe, not sorry.
Looks like the Viper may have had just a little bit more down the stretch.
Which tells me that Alex does have a little more wing in the car, as I said earlier. Just to keep the rear stabilized from ruining the tires.
So Alex now conceding about a 1 second gap to Andres, but Andres taking it sideways, so we know that these two drivers right now, they are pushing it to the max. Great battle, and wow, look ahead. They have one of the yellow McLaren F1s. This is going to be very interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, and what Alex is doing right now is regrouping, and it's smart. Most of us don't understand it. Take a moment, breathe, get the adrenaline to settle a little, let him have about a second lead, and then make the charge again. Try it all over.
Whoa,
And
Alex having to brake check, and Andres Prado giving the lights to the McLaren, saying, "Hey, leaders are upon you. We're battling. Let us by." So
right.
they get by, and now, yeah, like you said, you know what? Alex taking a second to regroup, and perhaps even study a little bit about Andres' line and try and exploit any weaknesses in his driving line. But boy, I'll tell you this much: if that were me, I wouldn't be able to exploit anything because the lines are looking good to me.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's tough. You're more just trying to get the guy to just for that split second carry a little too much speed into the corner, so he outbrakes. The car just kind of just understeers terribly, and you can get the inside.
Yep, I remember one of the races earlier this season where John Ludden had gotten by Andres Prado late. I think it was at Valencia, as a matter of fact. If I'm not mistaken, it was when we raced Valencia. John Ludden won that race, and he was able to get by Prado. And I remember Prado saying afterwards in the post-race chat that had it not been for his bobble, he would have made it impossible for Ludden to pass him. And it looks like he's playing that same strategy here with Alex White, making Alex in that saline, high torque, high power saline, have to shortcut some lines, knowing that he would need the torque to get past Prado coming out of a turn, but Prado taking the optimal line and keeping him behind there. So Prado's playing that old cat and mouse game with Alex White right now, saying, if you want to get around me, you're going to have to go around me.
Right. I call it the Gregory Myers school of racing. Oh, Alex just lost it.
Alex pushing a little bit too hard. He lurches out into the grass, but he quickly saves it.
Yeah. And this is where it plays in on what kind of tires did Alex actually take, because if he went soft wets, those rears can pretty much be on fire at this point. I mean, even hard wets are gonna pretty much be on fire at this temp.
Yep, absolutely. So interesting stuff there. We want to give some other folks some love as well. We're going to go back to P3, Brian Mongrain. If you don't mind, Salem, if you can stay up there, and any updates, you go ahead and interrupt and shout and say, you got to interrupt. But P3, Brian Mongrain, he's kind of driving out there all by himself right now. Chris Moses in P4, followed by Sportelli. Nothing has changed. Sportelli running in P5. Marty Urin dropping back a little bit behind Sportelli in P6, driving the Ferrari F40. Brad Maris in P7. He's carrying all sorts of ballast in that car, so it's certainly showing here. It's taking its toll. David Pohl in 8th, Aaron Parsons in 9th, and Rich Roman in 10th. Big Al Merriman in 11, Gub Douglas in 12, Bjorn Heyman in 13th, Mike Ratrix 14th, Sergio Calderon in the 575 running P15 right now, Jonathan Cuppett driving the C5 in P16, which is the last points paying position. Andres Cole in P17, Lou Masciarelli with the yellow McLaren F1 in 18, followed by your last runner, which is Carlos Della Torre driving the Lister Storm in P19. Jaime Moore has parked it, and that is your running order. So we're going to go back up front. Oh, we did lose Kreshin and Khalili also. So we're moving back up front.
Yeah. And we're currently working, looks like 43 or 44 now, out of a max of 58, but with the wet weather, I'm not sure how long we're going to go. Let's see.
So Alex trying valiantly to close that gap after having that slight off in the grass. Not sure if at this point the tires may be playing a role in him keeping that gap that way, but Looks like Prado's running just a little bit away with this right now as we are starting to see the closing
Oh yeah.
laps come into play.
And it's actually getting warmer out on track. It has jumped up about a degree or two. So, again, Alex's tires probably are red hot because you can tell that he's not able to make the charge he was able to make earlier.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So Alex White may just have to say, well, I'm going to stay in P2, or Alex White is just hanging back just to hang back and save a little bit for the end.
Right.
So great battle
Yeah, he can
forming.
seem to make no
Go,
dent.
go ahead, I'm sorry.